leads us into, for the next kind of question here is, since we're talking about screens, a lot of our members already have screens, and there's a technology thing that's coming out called 3D that they're looking to upgrade their projector, and they have an existing screen. And I was wondering if you could kind of guide us through that on people that either have an existing screen and are looking to upgrade their projector to 3D, or are members that are looking to do new home theaters, and by default
have to figure out
they're going to get a 3D projector, and what are some of the things to look out for on some of the screens that are out there. I know for myself, going around the conference here, the first thing I've noticed on some of the 3D stuff is extreme hot spotting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off to the side and I see a huge hot spot, or I just kind of move side to side and I see the color shift. And while not all of our members have big buck money to spend stuff, they don't really want to get in. They don't maybe not know that they're getting into some of those things because they have to go to 3D. So why is it when I'm walking around the show that I see some of those artifacts when I never really saw them before? What's unique with 3D and that?
Well, and I actually want to extend this into their theatrical experience in seeing 3D movies in theaters, because the situation is the same. That one of the predominant methods of doing 3D, of course, you have to have a left eye image and a right eye image. So there has to be a way of putting both left eye and right eye on the screen so that your left eye only sees left eye and your right eye only sees right eye. So one of the ways in using passive glasses, meaning glasses that are polarized and don't have any batteries and that sort of thing, one of the ways is to polarize the left image one way and polarize the right image another way, and then use glasses that only pass the one polarization to one eye and the other polarization to the other eye. In doing that, in order to preserve the polarity, you have to have a metalized screen, something that can actually maintain the polarity of light when it comes off the screen. Now, when you get into a metalized screen, we're going right back to the silver screen technology, which we started the motion picture industry out at 100 years ago, when we had to have metalized screens in order to get enough reflectivity so you could see the light. Well, those screens had a high amount of directivity. They pushed light forward, and in the process there was severe hot spotting in those screens. Now, as projectors got bigger and light output went up, as the lights here go down, as the light output went up, then they started using vinyl screens where they didn't have to metalize the screens, and there was far less hot spotting. Along came 3D and the requirement to maintain polarization for the passive system, and we had to go back. We really took a huge step backwards, so we ended up having to install metalized screens back into theaters where the hotspots started reappearing. And of course, it was necessary to maintain the polarity, but it added hot spotting, it added color shift, and it ruined 2D as well as 3D. In other words, if a 2D image were shown on that same screen, it wouldn't look anywhere near as good as it would have looked on the vinyl screen that had been in that theater prior to the new screen going in. So from a picture quality standpoint, I object seriously to any system that requires a screen that is going to hurt the picture. Now, putting that in perspective, I don't like the majority of screens that are on the market, period, anywhere, because I can show you that they don't allow an accurate image from the projector, and that's the reason this screen material was developed. So if I'm going to be doing 3D in my own home using a projection system, I'm going to figure out what 3D system will allow me to use my good screen, so that I've just put in a screen that allows me to get a phenomenal picture out of 2D. I don't want to make any sacrifices in going to 3D. There is no reason 3D should be anything less than 2D. So my position is that if you select a 3D system, you want to select a system that can be used on the best, highest quality screen that's available. Now, there's actually two systems that will work on this kind of a screen. In passive technology, there's the Dolby color filter glasses. So you can actually have passive glasses. And the Dolby color filter system for 3D works just fine off this screen. And then there's also something called active 3D, where you wear active glasses. They're shuttered glasses, so that when the left image is up on screen, the left lens is open, allowing light to go through, and then of course the right is blocked, and then the opposite of course occurs when the right image is up. It's called active 3D, and the glasses are a little bit more expensive because they have to have batteries in them. They have to have a receiver to synchronize to the picture so that the left eye is open when the left image is up on screen. But you'll get a picture quality that is vastly superior to anything you would get in the polarized system. And the limitation of the polarized system from a projected image is the screen that's required to get it, and the screen that's required to get it is going back to technologies that we were using 100 years ago with all the problems of that technology. So I'm not in favor, especially in the home theater market, I'm not in favor of projection systems that use the polarized system for obtaining left eye, right eye. As I said, if you want to go passive, there's the Dolby system that is filtered glasses that still allow you a passive system for 3D, but you can do it on the finest screen that's available. And so I recommend that people be conscious of the fact that the passive system is going to seriously degrade the picture. Now, screen manufacturers are actually aware of this. There are one or two screen manufacturers that offer you two screen solutions for 3D. And in a way, they're telling the customer that 3D doesn't work, because they're telling you, well, if you want good 2D, roll down one screen, and when you do 3D, put in another screen. And they actually have systems whereby you can change the screens. Usually I think the 2D screen will roll in front of the 3D screen. But they're literally telling you that the 3D screen isn't good enough for 2D. And if it isn't good enough for 2D, why would you ever want to watch 3D off that screen?
Is the issues so much that when you talk about saying that the screens have to be metallicized, or silver screens,
Yeah.
is that so much for the polarity, or is that for the reflectivity?
The majority of the reason for the metalized screens is to preserve the polarity, to preserve the polarization. That a screen like this will scramble the polarization, so it won't preserve the polarization at all. But of course, a secondary consideration is the fact that there's so much light loss in the glasses that one would say that you need the gain from the screen. But that's making the same mistake that has been made in the entire history of screens. Anytime there's anything wrong with a projector, it's supposed to be fixed with a screen. And that isn't my philosophy. That to have a really good 3D system, yes, you need more light in 3D. And so is my position that to get that light, it should be the projector's responsibility to provide the additional light that is necessary. Now, I realize this is going to put a number of projector manufacturers on the spot, because to my knowledge, not a lot of them have an ability to step up the light when you go into the 3D mode. But that, in reality, is what needs to happen. A good 3D projector, in my opinion, as an example, might have two lamps in it. One that is bright enough to handle the 2D, but when you go into 3D, you turn on the second lamp so that you have two lamps to get enough light to do the 3D imaging. So my philosophy about how to do 3D probably goes a little bit further than is currently being implemented. But as consumers get tired of the compromises they're having to make to watch 3D, they'll start demanding this. And incidentally, in the discussion of compromises, there's now pretty much a rebellion among consumers about the quality of 3D images in theaters. So if I talk about a rebellion, it's actually going on right now in the theatrical presentation. So people are past the wow factor and now expect something from 3D. And they expect it to be as good as 2D. And that's the reason, that's part of the reason consumers are now going to see 2D versions of movies that are being released in 3D.
I just wanted to make sure that some of our members have some clarification. We were talking about the 3D. There's two kind of predominant technologies that are done for 3D in the theater, and then there's technologies that are done in home theater. And they're dramatically different. And the technologies that I've witnessed in theatrical of the two were both a passive kind of glass that I witnessed, one from real 3D, and then Dolby's, I believe, was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and those were passive, and they were done at the projector level, and so you could thus have the passive glasses. And then when we step into home theater, personal home theater, I've only ever witnessed active glasses. I've never seen a projector manufacturer that had passive glasses for 3D for the home. Is there
There are actually a number of manufacturers here at CEDIA that are showing the passive approach to 3D. And a number of screen manufacturers are actually having to come up with metalized screens to accommodate this. Now, the passive approach to home is happening in two directions. There's one company here on the show floor that's actually doing it with two projectors, where they put a polarized filter in front of, one type of polarization in front of one projector and another type of polarization in front of the other projector. And then they overlap the projectors on the screen, so it's two projectors, and the left eye is fed to one projector, the right eye to the other, and then the polarization of both hits the screen simultaneously. There's another approach where you actually have a spinning wheel inside the projector. Now, this is also used in the Dolby approach. So what happens is it's a sequential image. You have first the left image, and a filter wheel drops in front of the lens or inside the projector to either select the right color in the Dolby system or select the right polarity in the polarized system. And then, of course, when the right eye comes along, that color filter wheel has changed position so that you either have the color select in the Dolby system or the other polarization in the polarization system. So there is an ability to do passive, either Dolby or polarization, in a single projector, or you could do it in a dual projector. Although I have to admit that I've not seen the Dolby system implemented with two projectors. But I've seen a lot of places where projector manufacturers would love to sell you two projectors. But again, I caution buying into that, because the screen that you have to use in the polarization system is going to destroy the picture quality, and you won't be able to watch good 2D and thereby not watch good 3D with that kind of polarization. Once people get by the wow factor, they're going to notice the hot spotting, they're going to notice the color shift, and I believe they're going to become disappointed, as I believe consumers have become disappointed with theatrical presentations.
I guess my spirits are a little down because I'm not exactly figuring out if I wanted to go to 3D in my home theater. I know I could get, there's a variety of 3D projectors that I could get that probably won't match what I have right now, but it sounds like even the screen I had isn't going to work properly. What choice do I have outside of
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because for a moment I'm going to speak about my projector, and there's a potential that a lot of DLP projectors are similar to mine. From about 4 or 5 years ago, the ability to make a DLP projector do 3D has existed. So both the 800 and the 900 in my projectors will do 3D. And it just requires an external box to feed, to transform the incoming 3D to a sequential image. And at that point, the box that transforms it into a sequential image would also provide the RF synchronization to active glasses. And you could be doing 3D with your current projector just as soon as the box comes out to provide an input to that projector. Now, I've spoken to a manufacturer here at the show who looked at my projector and said, oh, I could build you a box like that and have it for you in a month. And so rather than getting the box from the original equipment manufacturer, the projector manufacturer, who seems to be a bit stubborn about providing the box, I've decided to go and see what another company can do. So there's a potential of a month from now, you're going to be able to use your existing DLP projector on your existing screen to do 3D.
So I guess maybe I was a little confused earlier about, and maybe our members too, is I thought I heard that if I was using active glasses, that I had to have a metalized screen to keep the polarization.
Okay.
So how do I get around, how does this solve
It's
that?
actually passive glasses, because the polarization is a passive system. It can be active in the display device in that you have a rotating filter wheel to change the polarity. But the polarization system is a passive system, which means the left eye is one polarity and the right eye is another polarity. And so passive glasses don't have to do anything other than one eye has to be polarized one way and one eye has to be polarized the other way. That becomes a passive system because the glasses don't do anything. They don't change state and they don't have batteries. That's called passive. And it's the active system is the system that requires the glasses to do the work. The glasses have to block one eye and block the other eye, and of course they have to be battery operated and they have to receive a synchronization signal so that the right eye, the correct eye, is blocked at the correct time. Now, the passive polarized system requires the metalized screen. The active system, because the switching is all done here, that works on any screen. So for the time being, I'm heavily in favor of the active system because it's full resolution and I can reflect off a screen that will deliver the kind of 2D quality that I've been fighting for my entire career.
Well, I guess I learned something here, Joe. I didn't know that you could, I always thought that if you're going to use a passive glasses, that you'd have to have a setup like you have theatrically, where there's either the polarization is occurring inside the projector unit, or they have two bulbs projecting with two different images. And it sounds like what you're saying here is if you could have this add-on for the DLP projector, that you could accomplish the equivalent of that
in an active system.
Yeah, but still wearing passive glasses.
No, you have to wear active glasses because the glasses have to do the blocking for you.
So if this box comes out for this DLP projector, I'd still have active glasses.
Yes, you'd be using active glasses, not passive glasses. And you see, the active glasses, the reflectivity off the screen doesn't have to preserve any kind of polarity. And incidentally, I want to clarify one thing. The Dolby system is a passive system, but it can also work off any screen. So I want to make that clear, so that when we talk passive, the Dolby system is passive but can operate off any screen. And it's only the polarized system that requires a metalized screen to preserve the polarity. And of course, that metalized screen is what's going to destroy the picture quality.
So almost a little bit off topic, if you were going to go pick a movie theater that was offering 3D content, and let's say it was the same movie, you would pick one that was using the Dolby system because they wouldn't have the metalized screen.
Yeah, because the Dolby system is going to allow a much higher quality screen as far as an ability to preserve image quality. In fact, the Dolby system would allow the theater to use the screen that they might have had prior to the polarized system coming along.
But is it safe to say that as a consumer, if I'm looking in the newspaper and there's Thor, it's in 3D, I could say, oh, if it's the Dolby system, that I would have a high chance that it wouldn't have the silver screen, metalized screen at the theater?
There would be a high chance of that. Now, I also would like to point out that some IMAX theaters provide you with active glasses and can reflect off a standard screen, not a metalized screen. So that at least in some of the IMAX theaters, they also provide active glasses rather than passive glasses, so that you can have a much better 3D experience if you can find a theater, and they're few and far between because of the cost of the glasses. But if you can find a theater that will provide you with the active approach to 3D, where the left eye and right eye are shuttered, that's going to provide a much higher quality, a much more uniform image than you will get out of the passive system.
How do you, if you're one of our home theater forum members, how would you ever go determine that? Is this the only way to go to the theater and see if they have those kind of active glasses, or is there anything you can look at that would say, oh, I know this theater has this, and this is why I want to go here because I want the best picture?
I actually don't have a good answer for that. I just know that some of the IMAX theaters in Los Angeles do have active glasses, and I know that from the experience of going to them and recognize, oh my gosh, this theater has active glasses. If I'm going to go see anything in IMAX 3D or at a standard feature that's shown at an IMAX theater, that I want to go to this theater because I've already experienced the fact that it's active glasses. And so, as much as that isn't publicized, in other words, there isn't a sign, we have active glasses. I haven't seen any of that anyplace. So I'm not quite sure how a consumer who is new to trying to select theaters would end up determining that a theater has active glasses without understanding what they are and then going to the theater. I'm not aware of theaters beyond IMAX having active glasses. Almost every other theater application for 3D is a polarized passive glass. And I don't know what the theatrical count for Dolby is. I don't know how well represented Dolby is in the theatrical presentation of motion picture films.
Okay, well thanks. There's still one little other myth I'd like you to kind of help us clarify for home theater 3D. So it sounds like you kind of described the best way for a projector, the technology to be using, and to stay away from the type of screen that's going to be...
It's going to cause hot spotting
right.
and color shifts.
Now, I always thought that there was the other part of the reason for hot spotting and color spots was if I have an active glass, so it's shuttering back and forth from my right and left eye, that reduced, and the fact that there was like that double image coming on there, the light output was substantially less. So, if 2D image, I don't have the glasses on, and I have everything focused off the one thing coming back. If I go to 3D, this is where you can help correct us. I was always under the impression that, well, because I had the glasses on, and a lot of the ways that the projector manufacturers would go to kind of reduce crosstalk so you don't see ghosting, is they would keep the amount of time open on the glass even lower, plus the glasses are already tinted, that I was getting a lot of light loss, so I needed to compensate for that and projectors could only put out so much light. And I thought that was part of the other reason that you saw the hot spotting, because
Well,
they had a higher gain.
certainly, certainly that's been an advantage to the passive system, that these do have, the screens are high gain. And so more light is provided to the glasses. And you're absolutely correct. The light loss in the active glasses is pretty high. And that's why it's one of the statements that I made earlier, that I believe the projector manufacturers have to step up to find a way of fixing that light output problem. Now, I firmly believe that the active glasses can be improved so that the amount of light that is passed in active glasses can be better than it is now. So I have high hopes that the glasses manufacturers will take a step forward and improve that part of it. But I also believe that there's a responsibility on the part of the projector manufacturers to provide more light for a 3D application. And I realize that's going to be rethinking the projector. Right now, I think most manufacturers just want to adapt their existing projectors to make them into 3D projectors. And the reality is that they've got to build a projector that is appropriate for 3D. Something else that's, I think, surprising, and well, I could use lots of words for it, but we've actually, in the theatrical presentations, we've actually accepted that the light levels for 3D are going to be seriously below what we have for 2D. And I'm not sure I understand how we ever got away with the idea that 3D should have 1/3 the light of 2D. And it's not even 1/2, it's much closer to 1/3 the light. And I don't get how we just accepted that, and that we didn't step in and say, oh, well, if we're really going to do a good job of 3D, when we're doing 3D, we've got to step up the light output. And the proper way to do that is in the projector, not by increasing the reflectivity in the screen.
Isn't there, though, limitations with bulbs and stuff to just make it brighter, or are you saying that there's still a lot of technology that could be done in terms of light path that could increase the light while keeping the bulb the same?
There are certainly, I know from my own experience in working with projectors, just as soon as you think you've reached the limit of what you can do in light output, along comes something else that allows you to get much bigger. Now, that problem gets a little more difficult when you're talking about the 55-foot wide screens or even 20-foot wide screens. In other words, in the home theater market, we're usually talking about screens under 15 feet wide. I think there's far more potential for getting that extra light than there would be in trying to light up a 20 or 55-foot wide screen.
Would that be bulb or just optimized light path? Or?
Well, it even might be a different type of bulb. As an example, LED lighting is taking over. It's now become a major part of lighting sets in the motion picture industry. And we can get as much light on a set with 1/10 the power by using LEDs, by using white LEDs. And so a lot of productions are now switching over to white LEDs. So I see a potential of using white LEDs in projectors where we could actually get 6,000 to 10,000 lumens out of the projector, but at maybe 1/3 of the power that would be required. And that's actually where I want to go in designing my next projector whenever I find somebody who is willing to work with me. Among the goals that I have is a much brighter light source at a much lower wattage, so that we can be California conservative. I believe it's California that has the tightest regulations on how much power you can consume, but we could be California friendly with the power drawn, but we could be lighting up bigger screens. And so, especially with LED lighting, you could actually change the voltage on the light so that when you're doing 2D, it would be a low voltage going to the light, and when you're doing 3D, it would be a high voltage going to the light. And I actually see that as the potential solution in the consumer market. Obviously, LEDs aren't bright enough for the motion picture theatrical presentations, but I honestly believe that we should be looking into that technology to make 3D work in the home, so that there would be a switchable light source, and or when you want to show your 2D with all the lights on in the room, well, you could push that extra light output for that application as well.
Well, and the whole heat issue would go away dramatically.
Well, yeah, as an example, I'm now looking in the theatrical lighting area. There's a 6,000 lumen 100 watt lamp. Now, the lamp that's in my projector now is theoretically rated at 1,000 lumens at 300 watts. And so, gee, if I could get 6,000 lumens at 100 watts, in other words, 6 times the power at or 6 times the light at 1/3 the power, now I got room to play. And gee, why not put 2 of them in? If you can get 1 of them in, why not put 2 of those bulbs in? That's 200 watts. Why not put 3 of them in? Then we'd be back to the original 300 watts, but we would have 18,000 lumens. And well, maybe 18,000 lumens is enough to get by the 3D problem. This is what I mean when I say I really want to look into the potential of LED, white LED, as a light source for 3D.
That's exciting. I hope someone will take you up on that.